Hey guys, it's Will here and welcome back to the second part of my series, Part of the Warrior, my journey with Eldar Tactics. So before I go too much further into what this video is going to be about, I want to say a few thank yous, give a few shout outs, answer a few questions from the comments on the previous video. So first I want to say thank you to everyone who watched, liked and commented. You know, I wasn't sure if this series was going to work, but those who've seen it seem to like it based on the response I got, so that's all good. I want to say a special thanks to everyone who's chipped in with a bit of advice. Reddick Black, Eli Gutman, I Am Tib and Joshua Goodlow, thank you for all the advice. May not have replied to you all individually, but thank you very much, and yeah, I've read it and be trying to take on board and learn from what you got to say. Couple of people who had specific questions as well, just want to address. Iberian Wounds wants to know if I'm going to be doing Yari at some point, and yes, definitely want to give Yari a go. They are a little bit down my list of things I want to try, because yeah, with the points changes, I actually have a really low points value army now. I've got a lot of stuff I need to buy to get new stuff in, so yeah, Yari will be coming, but they won't be straight away, but definitely want to give them a try at some point. And Rob Mooney, you want to know about individual unit breakdowns? Definitely, yeah, it's something I want to work towards doing. Wanted to do sort of a few videos on kind of the overarching tactics to start me off with, but yeah, once I start really getting the hang of a few of the units in the army, definitely want to do individual unit breakdowns. First one will probably be for my Farseer, who I've been really pleased with my results with. In fact, I would expect that in the next couple of weeks, and then more as, you know, I get more of a hang on how each of the individual units works. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into the main video. So the Las Vagas Open and the winning list. So the LVO is one of the world's biggest, if not the world's biggest 40k tournament. Happened a few weeks ago over in Vegas. Obviously I wasn't there. Yeah, I'm a long way from Vegas, and yeah, getting one day off work's difficult, let alone getting 3 off to play Warhammer and getting permission from the missus. It's yeah yeah, that wasn't going to happen. But what I think is, you know, an Eldar list won, and there were several other Eldar lists in the sort of near the top, and while I don't want to do the kind of really high-end cheesy tournament lists, at least not most of the time, you know, if I've got a big tournament coming up, if I can get you know, escape for long enough to get to a tournament, you know, probably want to run something strong obviously, but even without going sort of really like top end cheesiness, I think there's still things I can learn from it to put into my own tactics and inform how I'm using my army and give me a few ideas for things to try out. So that's really what this video is going to be. I'm going to look at what the list was, and then a few ideas from it that we can yeah, try to incorporate into the Eldar, and so give us a bit more strength. Anyway, without further ado, let's take a look at the list. So here it is, shamelessly stolen from Frontline Gaming's website, the Ultimate Eldar list, the list that won the LVO. So this guy's got 3 detachments, 2 battalions and 1 spearhead, and he's primarily using Alatok Craft World with a little bit of Yari in there. So the first detachment's got a Farseer, a Spirit Seer and a Warlock, and then 3 units of 5 Rangers, and then 2 Wave Serpents, all with 3 Shuriken Cannons. Then his Spearhead detachment's got another Farseer, and then 3 units of 3 Dark Reapers, all with Tempest Launchers on the Exarchs. And then finally he has a Yari detachment led by Ivrain. There's also an Autarch Skyrunner with a fusion gun, Laser Lance and Banshee Mask. Then the only non-Craft World units in here, 2 units of Cabalites, 1 of 5, 1 of 6. Then we've got a 16-man Guardian unit with a Shuriken Cannon on the platform there. Then 6 Shining Spears, The Exarch on there has the almost obligatory Star Lance, and unlike everything else which is Alatok, they actually have the same Han Craft World allocation. And then finally a big unit of Dark Reapers with another Tempest launcher. So yeah, obviously he's gone Alatok because it's a very strong option with the -1 to hit, and then same Han on those Shining Spears for the very specific reason of using the same Han stratagem. Now obviously that detachment is Yari, it doesn't grant the stratagem, but because he's got Craftworld Eldar detachment in his list, obviously the 2 Alatok detachments, that means he has access to the cards, and the fact that those Shining Spears are same Han means that although they don't get the same Han Craftworld trait, they can use the same Han stratagem, which allows them to charge even if they've moved. But yeah, so obviously a very strong list. It won the tournament, but I'm going to now pick out a few points that I think are obviously things that list is strong with that I could learn from. So the first thing that comes to mind, obviously, is the number of Dark Reapers in here. I mean, he's got 4 squads in total, 3 small ones and 1 very large one. And this really reinforces what I've kind of known already, that Dark Reapers are really strong, and I really want to get some more. One thing I did notice that he's doing differently to me, other than obviously the squad sizes and the overall numbers, is the use of Tempest launchers. Now, I've always been a bit kind of on the Tempest launcher, you know, is it really going to be that good? Because it has a different kind of role to the rest of the unit, like they're really good at punching through armour, high toughness stuff, and the Tempest launcher is a little bit different. You know, it doesn't have that high power shot, it's got rather like the lots and lots of shots, so it doesn't have as much flexibility as the Reaper launcher. But obviously with these tiny squads he's running, the 3-man squads, he can stick it behind cover and fire out over the top and then step forward if he needs the Reaper launchers. So maybe something to consider further down the line. I mean, obviously it's proven to be effective, so yeah, something I may want to give a try. Next thing to note in here that I could certainly try out in my army is the use of Yari. Now, interesting thing here is that it's only a small detachment really. He's got yeah, a battalion of 3 pretty small cheap units and then 2 big units designed to benefit from the Yari special rules, and obviously Yvrain to unlock the fact that it is Yari. And yeah, that is really quite a clever idea, because the rest of the army, by not being Yari, still gets that Alatok Craftworld trait, the -1 to hit them at over 12 inches. Obviously being Yari loses that, but these specific units benefit more from strength from death than from the Craftworld trait. Both these very big units have got the Shining Spears, who obviously can benefit from both the moving, shooting and assaulting elements of strength from death. And the Dark Reapers, who are a really obvious target for something like a Word of the Phoenix, the Yari power, that lets them have a free strength from death, which obviously for these guys is going to be like, yeah, we'll have a second round of shooting with a big unit of Dark Reapers, don't mind if I do. So obviously really, really strong combination there, while still keeping all the other small units in the army Alteok to benefit from that. So yeah, definitely, as I said before, I want to try out some Yari at some point, and as some of you know, I have some Dark Eldar models as well, so I can try a few shenanigans with that. Just actually need to get around to buying the big box set with Yvrain and the Incarn in. Although this guy didn't use the Incarn, certainly something I'd want to try out as well further down the line. Looks like a really fun model, and yeah, Yvrain is really meant to be quite nasty with her psychic powers and stuff. So yeah, definitely look at getting some Yari at some point. one very obvious feature of this list that is certainly worth bearing in mind for anyone who is looking for Eldar Tactics, although that I won't personally be incorporating very much, is the Alatok Craft World ability, the -1 to hit you at range over 12 inches. Obviously a really strong ability for protecting your guys from long range shooting and generally making Eldar much more survivable. Generally, I think this is probably the best Craft World ability at the moment, and if I was building an Eldar list purely for power and strength, then this would be what I would do. But as you can see, my army's painted as Biltan. I'm quite invested in the kind of, you know, the Swordwind, heavily reliant on aspect warriors, warhost type of thing. So for the vast majority of my games, I will be running them as Biltan, even though I know Alatok is stronger because, you know, it's a fun game as well as just a competitive game. But if, you know, I've got a tournament where I'm really trying to go all out and just, you know, damn the fluff and just go maximum power, then yeah, I could always say, you know, yeah, they're Alatok. They look like Biltan, but they're Alatok, honestly. And obviously the inclusion of Rangers in this list stacks really nicely with that. I mean, I don't personally own Rangers. I'm not a huge fan of the models. And for Biltan, obviously Dire Avengers are a much more thematic choice and benefit more from the Craft World trait. But yeah, you know, could get myself a unit of Rangers at some point. Obviously a unit that's become very popular, but yeah, that's really if you're running kind of an Alatok theme. So definitely worth knowing about, but not one that I will likely be using very often. Now, the final thing here that I want to talk about, that's probably going to be my next purchase actually, is going to be some Shining Spears. Now, this guy's running a unit of 9 of them in the Yari detachment with the Samhan Craft World allocation, although they don't get the actual Samhan trait, not that it would really do them a huge amount of good because they haven't got the heavy weapons anyway, but the reason they're Samhan, even though they're in a Yari and Alatok list, is that they can take advantage of the Samhan Craft World specific stratagem, which allows them to charge even after advancing. When you stack that with the ability to potentially move twice from Strength from Death, and the fact they're already really quick, have a guaranteed 22-inch move if they advance, and have fly, they're, you know, great for getting into the enemy's backlines and taking out key targets that he thought was safe. Now, while I generally am planning to stick to Biltan, I think there's definitely some things I can take into account here. Firstly, Shining Spears are finally a really strong unit. For a long time they've kind of been a bit more of an out there, not particularly popular choice, but I think they are now generally really strong. I think the way assaults work in this edition and the way bikes work, I think they're a good choice. But particularly if you play a few shenanigans to use them to take out specific targets in the enemy's backfield. Now, here it was the Samhan trait and the Yari Strength from Death that was allowing them to move so fast, but to be honest, 16-inch move is pretty good anyway, and even if they're not Yari, there is another way to give them the double move. If you've got a Warlock nearby, yeah, a 35-point Warlock who can cast Quicken on them to give them, you know, a second movement, that's 32-inch movement, and then they get to shoot, and then they get to charge. So yeah, certainly not a slow unit, even if you don't have Samhan on there, although obviously the Samhan thing is particularly strong. And yeah, in a Biltan list, like what I'm doing, they've got other key advantages. The shuriken weapon's a little bit more effective, but also they've got slightly better leadership, and I can totally see these guys having a real role to play in taking out backfield units and getting towards objectives as well, because I've found in a lot of games recently I've been pushed back and not been able to get forward to actually get any objectives because I've been kind of avoid getting killed, whereas a more proactive unit like this will give me some real reach. and also you know, it'd be quite nice to have them assault something, wipe it out, consolidate into something. It's something that's been a bit of a bugbear for me in this edition, is that I keep getting assaulted and then consolidated into, so I've got like 2 units getting tied down, and I need to obviously learn to avoid that, but also be quite satisfying to do that to my opponent as well. And I think the Shining Spears are definitely a cool unit for that. And of course they are an aspect, so they fit perfectly into the fluff of my list as well. Okay, so there we have it. There's a few things that I've learnt from looking at the LVO winning list and the tactics that we used. Yeah, although I'm not planning to kind of do that type of list, you know, I'm not gonna like be copying his list. You know, learning from his tactics might give me a bit of an edge with my Eldar and some ideas for new things to try. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.